It all kicks off with our MC reaching out in relief, feeling like the moment he's been waiting for has finally arrived. Next thing he knows, he wakes up totally confused, staring at a weird ceiling and feeling completely different in his own body. Hyped beyond belief, he celebrates the fact that he finally got ice skate into a fantasy world after all this time. He legitimately left his original planet behind and embarked on this brand new journey. Back in the day, he'd spend hours in the dark glued to his PC, literally only living to binge his favorite stories. His addiction was so real that he'd type like a madman all night long without taking a break. He'd leave massive reviews every single day, always finding new reasons to roast the plot. Because of that, he memorized every single detail about the characters and even the most hidden lore. His obsession made him know the most obscure places of that story better than anyone else. But all that trolling eventually made the author rage quit, and our guy got hit with the ban hammer by the rest of the fandom. Despite taking an L on the internet, he feels like he won at life by respawning in a totally new world. Checking out the quiet village, he starts trying to figure out how things work around there. He realizes he's just a kid now and decides to check his stats to see how OP he is. Full of confidence, he raises his hand, calling out for the system window to kick off his epic adventure. But he's left looking like a total clown when an awkward silence drops and absolutely zero magic screens pop up. He quickly takes the hint and realizes his journey isn't going to follow the classic OP reincarnation script. He remembers he's read plenty of stuff without a system and is confident that time will help him master this place. So he decides the ultimate big brain move is to focus on getting that bag and making tons of money ASAP. The kid finds out his name is now Ivan, and his new family lives a super humble farm life. Trying to be a trailblazer, he gathers some stuff in the backyard to invent soap and revolutionize the village. The DIY project completely backfires, and the kid gets a massive earful from his mom. On top of the harsh grounding, he also finds out that soap was already a super common thing in that world. Later on, while walking through the village, he notices some newspapers scattered on the street. Reading the news, Ivan is shook by the local tech and completely loses track of where he actually is. Heading back home, he starts crossing out almost every option on his list of possible worlds. Eventually, our guy manages to figure out the name of the current nation and the king who runs the show. Losing all hope, he rips up the rest of his notes and tosses them in the fire, accepting that his theory was a total bust. The scenery around him reveals an unknown country, completely different from any book he's ever read. His biggest question goes from what story am I in, to what on earth is the genre of this bizarre reality. Suddenly, massive and terrifying creatures spawn in the sky, blacking out the sun for the whole day. Ivan's dad has to leave and asks the family to stick together and wait for his return. He gets drafted by military officers to fight in a war that seems like it's never going to end. Ivan and his mom just watch the man walk away, totally unable to do anything to stop it. From that moment on, the MC's mind starts accepting the harsh reality of his new life. Trying to help out at home, the kid shadows his mom and learns how to do heavy manual labor. During his tiny bit of free time, he self-studies until he actually masters the local language. Sadly, a tragic letter arrives breaking the news that the absolute worst happened to the man of the house on the battlefield. The cruelest detail is that the document about the incident was actually issued years ago. Ivan cries his eyes out, hugging the paper while trying to make any sense of this giant mess. He gets completely spooked when he realizes it's a chaotic mix of advanced tech, dangerous magic, and brutal wars. Totally lost, he just keeps sobbing alone in a dark corner, trying to cope with the heartbreak. To make things worse, his mom's health starts tanking fast, and she can't stop coughing. The woman has a terrible crisis, and he rushes over in a panic, trying to find a way to help. Stepping up to the plate, Ivan comforts his mom and promises he's going to take on the family's burdens. The very next day, he heads straight to the busy station and decides to enlist in the army. Even making basically pennies as a soldier, Ivan chooses to send every single cent back to support his mom. He does this out of pure sympathy for the woman who always sacrificed everything for her family. He also carries the massive guilt of occupying the body of the only son left to support that sweet lady. In combat, the guy quickly realizes he has an insane, top-tier talent for fighting. After clutching several tough battles, he ranks up and earns serious respect as an official soldier. But the war hits a breaking point, and pure chaos wrecks every city the conflict touches. Right in the middle of this absolute destruction, a classic hero figure spawns on the battlefield. Seeing the typical squad of adventurers, Ivan finally thinks he figured out the vibe of this universe. The mere presence of the new leader brings a massive wave of hope to the exhausted troops all around. However, in the sector where our guy is stationed, the troops keep getting completely overpowered by the enemy forces. Things only turn around when the main adventurers rush in to take out the enemy commanders. Thanks to his stellar track record in the clashes, Ivan gets drafted to fight right alongside the hero's squad. He is assigned to a special ops unit focused on locking down captured territories and wiping out any threats in the area. In practice, the squad's dirty work earns them the nickname of the Extermination Unit. After years of ruthlessly cleaning up the messes left by the conflicts, he hits his absolute breaking point of burnout. Eventually, the final boss goes down, and the hero's squad celebrates the big W with a massive parade through the capital streets. Watching the parade from above, Ivan just waits for this incredibly long journey to finally wrap up. He truly believes he played his part and can finally get some well-deserved peace away from all the drama. Time flies by since the epic victory, but that peaceful, happy ending just never drops. As the years roll on, his tactical unit loses almost all of its OG members. Realizing the higher-ups are planning to disband the squad for good, he decides to take matters into his own hands. He jumps headfirst into danger and pulls off one last mission that had red flags all over it. Having survived yet another insane challenge, Ivan officially requests his discharge, wanting nothing but a real vacation. He realizes it's already been 10 years since he lost his mom, which gets him super deep in his feelings. Arriving in his old hometown, the vet finds nothing but a huge void and a lot of loneliness waiting for him. With nowhere to crash, he starts an orphanage, taking in the kids who lost everything in the war. Even living a chill life helping others, he still feels like something major is missing. The front yard is full of life and kids playing, but that nagging feeling that the story should have ended just won't fade. While working in his office, a soft noise at the window catches his attention outside. He goes back to his paperwork and sighs, seriously missing a distant past that is never coming back. Typing away peacefully, Ivan admits he really misses that quiet, low-key lifestyle. It's been 4 years since the Demon King bit the dust, and he wonders what kind of ending his story will actually get, even guessing if the hero will just pass away from old age. Right then, heavy footsteps echo through the dead silent hall. The veteran instantly drops what he's doing, noticing someone approaching. He stays on high alert in the dark, trying to figure out who that specific sound belongs to. Based on the leather squeaking, the smell of gunpowder, and the steady pace, he quickly clocks that it's a highly trained operator. With that, he low-key grabs his axe and gets ready for whatever comes through that door. The office door finally swings open, breaking the total silence of the room. A young officer named Dmitri walks in, giving a hyped-up salute and greeting his old squadmate after ages apart. But the vibe check fails instantly. The kid freaks out when he gets a blade pressed to his neck for not knocking, plus he's totally weirded out by his old buddy's massive lumberjack beard. Ignoring the messenger's panic attack, Ivan just tells him to spit out why he's there. A bit salty about being rushed, Dmitri hands him a sealed envelope. He drops the bomb that it's a personal letter sent straight from Her Highness, the Princess. Super sus, the veteran checks the paper, wondering if it's laced with poison, while the guest tries to convince him it's just a friendly text and begs him to open it. He finds the whole thing super sketchy, totally doubting the royal would hit him up just to be polite. He recalls that the princess, Akalisa the Iron-Blooded, would never slide into his mail just to ask what's good. The young officer nods and spills the tea that the political scene is a dumpster fire, with the military brass complaining non-stop about pulling back from the front lines. To make it worse, Crown Prince Alexander is trying to chop the nation into 5 different pieces to sell off. While all this absolute chaos is going down, the great king is just sitting there with his arms crossed, totally ghosting everyone. Right in the middle of this mess, a super elite prep school was mysteriously built during the war. Pointing to the campus flyer, the kid asks Ivan if he has any clue who just enrolled there this year. The first student is Isabel, the direct heir to the legendary hero. Next up is Oscar, the son of the highly respected knight. Then there's Elphihura, the daughter of the op mage. Up next is Isidis, the super aggressive daughter of the berserker warrior. And finally, Lucia, the protege of the master thief. Basically, all the Nepo babies of the squad that took down the Demon King are grouped up there, plus the Saintess herself is running the department. Since age isn't a factor for getting in, Dmitri explains that prodigies from all over the globe enrolled early at this spot. It's crystal clear that, given how VIP these kids are, if even one of them loses their life, the fallout will be apocalyptic and the country is done for. Totally getting how huge this headache is, the veteran sighs and asks what his role is in all this drama. The gig is literally just to make sure these teenage troublemakers don't get a single scratch and make it home safely after 3 years. Beyond disappointed, the guy asks himself what kind of finale this is, since he was banking on a classic happy ending after the villain got clapped. He thinks about the toxic international vibes, the crumbling politics, and the random drop of this elite school. An epiphany hits him like a truck, and he is absolutely shook by the realization. He asks for a second to process the insane plot twist he just connected. Completely raging, he smashes his own desk and drops a heavy curse word. He can't even believe that this entire time he was stuck living inside an Academy genre story. The messenger flinches at the rage quit, while the veteran sarcastically asks if he looks like he's doing okay. Gripping the busted desk, Ivan vents his absolute frustration that he spent 30 miserable years suffering in this world, just to find out the whole thing was merely the prologue. After taking a deep breath, he makes a call, clenching his fist and accepting his fate. He asks if the only thing he has to do to get his peace is to make sure these kids graduate once and for all. He officially takes the quest, feeling like he's finally going to wrap up this exhausting storyline. The princess's letter gets a bit more personal, calling the vet by a cute nickname and checking in on him. The royal brings up the tough old days in the garden and says it's a bummer he dipped without looking back before they could even grab tea. But the vibe of the text flips when she warns that an even more brutal and freezing winter is about to hit the kingdom. The note goes on to show major trust, calling the guy her most loyal lumberjack. The princess promises to pay him out triple for the hassle, even offering her personal friendship if cash isn't enough. She even guilt-trips him with the painful trauma they shared, trying to hype him up to take the job. She makes it super clear that the country still desperately needs him to carry them through the next few years. After reading the sweet sign-off at the bottom, Ivan tries to boil the actual problem down to basics. The main objective is to be the helicopter parent for this squad of dangerous teens for 3 long years, so nobody catches a stray. He breathes a sigh of relief, figuring out that if he tanks this period without any disasters, the plot will end and he can finally touch grass in peace. Cutting to the chase, he grills Dmitri on which target is hitting the capital first. The answer makes him sweat, because first on the roster is none other than Isidis, the berserker's heir. He remembers the girl's dad is now the big boss king of his nation, and was a major carry in the hero's party. But his actual memory of the dude involves feral axe swings and absolute unhinged madness on the battlefield screaming his name. He realizes with pure dread that his very first boss fight is dealing with the daughter of that total war psych. He bets the girl inherited all her dad's rage and will probably wreck everything in her path on her way to school. Meanwhile, at the train station, the Allied soldiers are cracking up that the girl actually picked orchestral music as her major. They're all roasting her, joking about how she's going to play musical instruments using pure brute force. Swerving their expectations, Isidis hits them with a super elegant posture and calls them out for mocking her music department. Oozing main character energy, she promises to flex her skills and become a massive icon at the university for all of them to witness. The Knights threw her a massive send-off party, but after 2 days of a super chill ride, things go totally sideways. The train gets ambushed out of nowhere and ends up flipping over in a massive explosion on the tracks. Back in the office, the veteran is super confused hearing from Dmitri that a random terror attack happened during the trip. Staring out the window, he explains he knows exactly how the meta works simply because they are stuck in an academy plot. He drops classic fairy tales as an example, where the MC always beats the Dark Lord with the power of friendship. Another classic trope is when one of the bad guys' generals flips sides to help out humanity. At the end of all that brutal grinding, peace magically resets the world and fixes all the damage. He wraps up saying all these stories run on heavy clichés, and every genre has its own basic rules. Flashbacking to the book he tossed in the fire 30 years ago, he starts predicting the plot's next moves like a speedrunner. He figures that blowing up the freshman train at Igorvich Station is literally the most basic tutorial event to start the game. Later on, already chilling on a bench at the station, he just waits for the drama to unfold, hiding behind a newspaper. Checking the news, he notices it's already 9 o'clock, and the ride carrying Princess Isidis is dropping in any second. Scanning the room on high alert, he realizes that if someone actually wanted to take the girl out, this border spot would be the prime spawn camp location. Reading the play, Ivan figures the bad guys need to cross the border first to pin the blame on the kingdom, since the next map is a heavily guarded military zone. Sitting there strapped, the vet admits he didn't call for backup because he had zero proof, but he notices the suspects are playing super sloppy. Scoping out the dead quiet and empty lobby, he sizes up the few randoms hanging around. It's super obvious the guy checking the schedules is an NPC fake, since he already let 3 trains roll right by without hopping on. The veggie vendor is even worse in his book, trying to sell stuff in a ghost town while literally smoking right over his own inventory. Not wasting a single frame, our MC gets up from the bench and casually strolls over to his targets. The fake passenger notices him pulling up and absolutely panics. Instantly, Ivan presses the piece right against the guy's back before he can even process what's happening. Sweating bullets, the guy tries to ask what on earth is going on. Giving him a death glare, the vet tells the suspect to shut his mouth right now. At that moment, the fake vendor sees the beef and yells in a panic for him to back off. Finding the whole thing a joke, Ivan figures a weapon would be hidden from that range and decides to run one last vibe check. He asks straight up who these goons are actually working for. Totally lost, the thug just stutters without giving a single straight answer. Confirming they are total noobs, the veteran drops the guy with zero hesitation and handles the problem right there. Catching them slipping, he already lands a hit on the second guy before things can escalate. He notes these dudes aren't backup or royal feds, because real pros would flash their badges instantly instead of asking dumb questions. Seeing their boys get folded, the rest of the squad freaks out and yells to light the MC up at all costs. But the goons have awful ping, which just proves they definitely aren't the kingdom's elite ops. The veteran rushes the lobby, returning fire at the totally uncoordinated enemies. The thugs get absolutely clapped without even realizing where the hits came from. Dodging the shots like it's nothing, the MC wraps up his logic. He uses his axe to take out the remaining goons with insanely clean moves. The guy realizes these wannabe terrorists have never actually faced a real raid boss in their lives. Down on the floor, the last survivor screams in agony, clutching his busted arm. Standing over him like an absolute menace, Ivan coldly drops the fact that if he doesn't patch that up, he's not going to last much longer. Cutting the small talk, he demands to know where the rest of the squad is camping. Bawling his eyes out, the goon leaks that there are 15 more guys down by the tracks and begs for mercy. Trying to save his own skin, the injured guy warns that their boss is super scary and offers to help, making Ivan realize this dude was just the scout. Playing along, the enemy promises to be useful and cooperate, but the MC just wants to know if they know who the VIP on the train is. The thug spills that they got intel saying the transport was carrying gold bars from a neighboring nation to the kingdom. Thinking he actually did something, the prisoner begs for pity, swearing on everything that he kept it 100% real. Having zero patience, Ivan says he spotted a lie in that whole speech, totally terrifying the guy. Claiming the dude lied about being useful, the veteran strikes hard and knocks the prisoner out cold. The massive station clock shows it's almost 10 in the morning, and the timer is ticking down fast. Wiping down his piece, he calculates that a member of the old extermination unit takes roughly 5 minutes to scrub the logs of a firefight. So the cleanup would be done right before 10, leaving exactly 2 minutes on the clock before the freshmen drop in. Keeping his cool, the MC takes a deep breath and figures he still has plenty of time to clear the tracks. Miles away in the kingdom's capital, a woman's voice asks for a status update on her old ally. The underling reports that the veteran predicted the track ambush with insane accuracy on the time and location. Intrigued, she asks if he's got a burner phone with a secret informant, but the official swears there's been zero suspicious activity for the past 4 years. A military guard chuckles, finding the whole setup totally bizarre. The woman drops strict orders to track his every single footstep and report it straight back to her. Princess Lisa makes it crystal clear she wants the admin powers to watch his life 24/7. Staring out the window, the royal thinks about how his game sense was always top tier ever since their last co-op run. Far from the capital, the train chugs through the mountains, while Ivan puts all his money on the cliché academy logic. The MC is absolutely positive that no matter how bad things look, plot armor won't let the worst-case scenario happen. Sprinting through the snow, he knows a crisis event in the early game is literally never fatal. Young Princess Isidis chills in her car, completely safe thanks to her main cast immunity. The C4 strapped to the tracks just proves his theory that this is all a scripted tutorial stage for the noobs. Being the first raid of the game, the students have to clear it to level up. Right on cue, the bad guys smash the detonator the exact second the transport rolls up. A massive explosion shreds the tracks, sending the heavy train doing violent barrel rolls. Tossed around by the blast, the girl takes the hit that Ivan already decided not to block from day one. The merc boss hypes up the squad over the W and tells his boys it's time to loot the drops. While the students deal with the mess, the vet decides to focus on tracking down and deleting the real mastermind behind the griefing. Pushing through the freezing blizzard, he plays it stealthy, sticking to the shadows to avoid pulling aggro. Moving like a ghost with his weapon drawn, his only goal shifts to permanently banning the risk factors. The guy shoots without hesitation at the clueless mobs to totally clear the path. Watching the smoke billow from the wreckage, he taps back into the old toxic playstyle of his former military unit. Around the wrecked train, the thugs are laughing it up, celebrating the massive loot they think they just scored. The boss orders his boys to scrub the map and steal everything, planning to flip the rare drops on the black market. Suddenly, a shot rips through the quiet air, jump-scaring the entire squad. One of the goons takes a headshot and drops before he even realizes he's in danger. Freaking out over the gunshots, the mercs totally panic, trying to figure out where the aggro is coming from. One of the guys rages, yelling to show yourself, which just proves to Ivan that they are absolute casuals. He clocks that the group doesn't even have the basic stats to track bullet trajectories. Spotting the veteran walking through the snow, the enemies are absolutely shook by his aura. Strolling up casually dual-wielding, he chill asks who's running this lobby. Without a second thought, the desperate thugs just start spraying in the mystery man's direction. With his eyes locked in, the MC literally reads every single move his opponents make. He uses his high-level combat awareness to see the bullet paths before they even pull the triggers. Gliding through the attacks, the vet dodges everything, proving that basic weapons are trash against high-tier players. The goons keep emptying their clips blindly in a total fail attempt to land a hit. Trusting his gut, Ivan walks right through the bullet hell without a scratch, since the enemy's own rage just telegraphs where every shot is going. The veteran explains that hiding your attack hitboxes with magic is basic melee stuff, but doing it with projectiles is super sweaty. That's exactly why nobody in the hero's main party ever bothered using guns in a boss fight. Pushing forward while firing non-stop, he reveals that his old extermination squad was the only exception to the meta. One of the thugs gets tagged hard and drops, screaming in pain, completely unable to counter the brutal. With eyes colder than ice, Ivan breaks it down that using pistols is just a vibe check to gauge the enemy's power level and speedrun the trash mobs. Super salty about the disrespect, the squad leader curses the MC out and rushes in for a heavy melee strike. The merc swings wildly, demanding to know who sent this psycho to grief his raid. Flexing insane chill, the veteran parries the sword strike using just his gun, leaving the enemy totally mind-blown. Punishing the massive frame advantage, he breaks the enemy's posture with a lightning-fast and super clean counter. The hit is so heavy that the boss gets launched into the ground like a ragdoll. Completely folded, the guy just groans in the snow while Ivan looks down on him like he's actual garbage. Even taking the L, the criminal talks trash, saying he took a mental screenshot of his face and promises to spin the block. At that, the vet sighs and sarcastically asks if the dude is really that good at remembering faces. The merc has zero clue what that means, while Ivan figures this guy must be the first miniboss meant for the actual main characters. Gripping his axe, the guy decides he's not going to send this dude back to the lobby just yet, since he's the starter enemy reserved for the real hero. Pointing something nasty at the prisoner, the vet demands immediate answers, dropping the fact that he knows a million ways to inflict max pain without leaving a debuff. A flashback hits where a girl's voice screams in pure rage, ordering them not to even think about tailing her if there's a 1% chance they get spotted. Young Isidis pops up super triggered, threatening to cancel her own dad if he tries to stalk her. The massive King Einar is absolutely shook, hearing his daughter's harsh words echoing through the whole base. But he quickly flashes a cocky grin, figuring it's totally fine as long as they just don't get caught in 4K. To fix this, the king summons all his most loyal absolute units for an emergency meeting in the main hall. Einar asks the room who has the guts to bodyguard his precious daughter while staying in complete stealth mode. Instantly, one of the bros throws his hand up, screaming with crazy hype to take on the VIP quest. Back in the day, these warriors were known as toxic psychos, but the king actually took them in as true ride-or-die brothers. The massive problem is that the girl already memorized all of their faces, which would totally blow their cover on the train. Keeping the hype train rolling, the king asks who has the stamina to physically chase the train on foot so they won't pop up on the radar. All the soldiers go wild over the unhinged idea, making it clear they don't even want loot, just a chance to flex their loyalty. In their home turf, these hardcore simps are feared and known by everyone as the king's personal hit squad. Loving the energy, Einar says now they just need someone to actually enroll at the university and spectate Isidis up close. So he asks any warrior confident in their academic stats to raise a hand. The hall goes dead silent at the intellectual skill check, with some guys looking terrified and swearing they'd rather catch a game over than take a written test. Out of nowhere, a single hand goes up super shyly in the crowd, turning every head in the room. The absolute madman Mord steps up voluntarily to tank the dreaded exam and complete his lord's mission. His bros literally shed tears of joy, hyping up his bravery and telling him not to let the homework mechanics break him. Bursting with pride, the king points at the soldier and officially dubs him the newest physical education freshman. Taking the quest with absolute passion, Mord screams at the top of his lungs, swearing to carry the princess no matter what. The timeline jumps to 2 months ago at the massive university, showing that the warrior's spy mission was actively running. Insanely enough, he actually cleared the entrance exams and locked in his spot for the sports major. Honestly, the dude suffered an absurd amount of emotional damage on the written test, literally shredding the paper from stress, but managed to scrape by with the bare minimum passing grade. His massive hitbox and aggro vibe left the admins totally spooked during the interviews. But he only got the green light because he completely broke every physical stamina record in the game. Jumping back to the present in January, the brutal explosion rocks the snow-covered tracks. After desperately sprinting after the train for 2 straight days with zero sleep, the new PE major finally pulls up. He roars in pure rage, telling the princess to hold on, absolutely livid at the trolls who dared to attack her ride. Meanwhile, inside the busted train cars, a quiet groan of pain breaks the dead silence. Sprawled out on the dark floor of the car, Princess Isidis tries to shake off the stun effect, wondering what on earth just happened. Totally panicked, she starts realizing the transport might have gotten griefed by bandits at the border. Her anxiety spikes when she remembers she's totally defenseless because she banned her kingdom's security from tagging along. In the middle of the brain fog, she spots something crucial on the floor and lets out a massive gasp. The girl hugs her music case like her life depends on it, super relieved to see her legendary instrument didn't take a single point of damage. But the chill vibes end fast. Her eyes go wide as she detects a major threat entering her zone. With a huge bang, the heavy train door gets violently kicked in, sending debris flying everywhere. Curled up on the floor hugging her gear, the princess shakes with terror, totally clueless on how to block this. A toxic laugh echoes through the smoke as a rough hand grips the twisted metal frame. The mercs raid the spot, trash-talking the situation, and get hyped when they realize they cornered a defenseless noob. Far away on the broken tracks, the boss of the goons is still writhing on the ground after getting totally washed by the veteran. Completely broken, the prisoner begs to get sent to the lobby for good, but Ivan coldly guarantees he isn't getting out of it that easy. Staring the guy down with his axe out, the MC tells him to stop being so dramatic by asking for a game over. Ignoring the dude's whining, Ivan dumps a super sketchy potion all over the guy's wounds, making him scream in absolute agony. The thug thrashes around like crazy, begging him to stop griefing him and to put away that weird green juice. The merc boss keeps screaming his lungs out, while the veteran reminisces about what the frontline players hated most in the war. Pouring the juice without an ounce of pity, he drops the lore that the most feared item by the fighters were actually healing potions. The damage is so absurd that the prisoner literally prays they just chop his arm off instead of using that cursed medkit. In a flashback, Ivan is holding a downed teammate, telling him to tough it out because his stats are a major asset to the nation. But the old squadmate was raging, yelling that nobody treats a high-value carry with such toxic heals. Snapping back to reality, the MC says that experience built his character and sarcastically asks the enemy if it stings. He breaks down that this cursed potion makes you feel the entire agonizing pain of a slow recovery all at once. After beta testing the brutal effects back in the day, he actually found a way more big brain use for the item. The strat is to heal the damage, grill the guy for info, and heal him again, spamming insane pain over and over. Unable to tank the torture anymore, the goon bawls his eyes out swearing he has zero extra intel, proving the DIY truth serum works like a charm. Standing tall, the vet patiently repeats that the guy needs to stay alive to play his role as a tutorial roadblock. The criminals start screaming again, while Ivan thinks it's super weird how dedicated this random mob was to reach the train. Realizing the prisoner doesn't even know who dropped the quest on them, the MC guesses the guy is debuffed with some sort of mind control spell. Out of nowhere, a thin red laser beam cuts across the veteran's face, warning him that a sniper has him locked. Reading the instant threat, he speed calculates the trajectory of the headshot coming right at him to try and dodge. Clocking the danger, the vet realizes the crosshair is totally covering his face with zero gaps. A split second later, a massive energy blast nukes the ground, dealing AoE damage. Chilling in the shadows, the MC quickly runs the numbers and realizes returning fire is totally pointless against that. Right then, a giant boulder gets yeeted his way, letting him know the enemy's power level is way higher than he thought. The rock smashes into the ground, causing a massive shockwave that kicks up a crazy dust cloud. The whole map gets covered in a thick fog while the aggro takes a pause. Casually strolling through the smoke, Ivan figures out the opponent also unlocked the bullet trajectory tracking skill. The veteran finally steps out of the rubble and demands the camper show his face. Instantly, heavy footsteps shake the busted terrain, announcing the arrival of the new boss. The massive unit Mord steps up holding an axe and casually drops that the MC seems pretty cracked at the game. But he instantly shifts into combat mode, warning that things aren't going to end here. Absolutely fuming, the big guy declares it's a massive fail that they laid a finger on his niece, and calls his opponent a total noob. The vet side-eyes the downed thug on the floor, realizing he completely misread who the actual tutorial boss was. Spinning his own axe, he gets ready to clash head-on with the real threat. Glowing with an insane aura, Ivan coldly lets the big guy know that he needs to recognize who the real carry is in this lobby. Not wasting a frame, the absolute unit rushes in, launching a super heavy forward smash. The MC manages to parry the hit just in time, but the impact sends chunk of the map flying everywhere. Facing that insane flex of brute strength, he starts feeling like the vibes are totally off here. Dodging another lethal swing, Ivan admits this dude's strength stat is completely broken. To avoid taking a massive hit, the vet spin dashes to create some spacing. The blades clash so hard the MC starts wondering if his walkthrough guide for this tutorial was just wrong. While blocking the rapid-fire hits, He thinks it's totally ridiculous for someone with this high-tier skill to be running a basic robbery quest. Mid-combo, Ivan starts suspecting there's an admin pulling the strings behind the scenes. The axes collide with so much force that a shockwave knocks both players back into the snow. Connecting the dots, the vet realizes Princess Isidis is supposed to be a main character in this lore. The absolute unit goes back on the offensive, screaming his precious niece's name at the top of his lungs. Dropping a brutal top-down strike, Mord yells like a madman that he has to save the girl no matter what. Far from the boss arena, the wrecked train cars are still tilted super sketchy on the snow. Inside the ruins, one of the mercs points his sword and tells the princess to drop whatever she's doing. Leaning on the twisted metal, another thug laughs, saying he thought she was just a basic NPC survivor. Dropped on the floor, the violin case turns out to be a super high-tier item for the young freshman. Completely taken over by pure rage, Isidis grips the broken pieces and apologizes to her precious. An insane shockwave blasts the mercs backward, wrecking the train car's structure even more. Hitting the wall, one of the thugs realizes way too late that this girl is definitely not a casual. She grips the violin like a lethal weapon, locking onto the intruders with pure murder in her eyes. The girl demands to know how they had the audacity to grief her instrument and violently roasts the entire squad. Right there it becomes obvious that even though she looks like her mom, she got 100% of her terrifying dad's feral genes. With rage tears streaming down, she mourns the loss of her epic musical sidekick. Spooked by the sudden vibe shift, the mercs totally panic and try to flee the lobby like cowards. Moving with crazy high agility, the princess dual-wields her broken violin like a top-tier melee weapon. She twirls the item with insane force, ready to drop a devastating ultimate on the enemies. Swearing to avenge her beloved gear, the girl unlocks her true unhinged potential for the very first time. One of the bad guys begs for a revive before getting clapped, while Ivan hears the chaos from a distance. The thug gets instant code and goes flying across the map from the hit's impact. The goons outside run for their lives, calling the girl an absolute psycho, leaving the big guy totally confused. Looking at the wreckage, Mord panics, asking what happened to the redhead and if her HP is okay. The MC watches the big guy's reaction and speedreads the lore instantly. Sprinting toward the train, the vet realizes the person he dumped the toxic potion on wasn't this guy's niece. Using his meta-knowledge, Ivan figures the girl had zero risk of getting a game over because she had a hidden support player. Right then, the absolute unit points a finger, accusing the MC of teaming up with the mercs. Keeping his cool, the vet says the logic isn't mathing, since the big guy was literally just healing the enemy. Using the tactical playbook of his old squad, Ivan calls the dude a psycho for using such a toxic interrogation strat. The warrior gives a cringe laugh, agreeing the vet should have pinged him first, since he was just trying to farm some intel. Not buying that flimsy excuse for a second, the MC just narrows his eyes and scans the giant. Suddenly, Isidis drops from the wreckage, flexing a terrifying aura after sending all the goons back to the lobby. The guy runs over super relieved to see his niece is safe, but the girl is shook when she realizes her uncle is actually there. The MC stays quiet, just spectating the family reunion in the middle of the snow map. He remembers running into the girl for the first time 7 years ago when she was happily rushing the warrior. Knowing she got older, Ivan calculates the odds of her still recognizing his character model. While the princess aggressively pulls her uncle's ear, the vet figures the secret support will handle the rest and decides to log off for the night. Catching the girl's stare, the MC realizes that getting doxed right there would cause massive lag in his plans. In a flash, the veteran uses a stealth exit and vanishes, leaving the confused girl asking where the mystery player went. The warrior shifts into a serious stance when he realizes the random ally actually ghosted the server. Replaying the short PvP match they had, he recognizes that combat style is exclusive to the kingdom's special ops. Another thing that caught his eye was how the random was handling the axe, looking way too much like the king's signature moves. Connecting the royal ties and the sweaty weapon mechanics, the big guy realizes the dude has to be the hero candidate Ivan. Curious, the warrior asks his niece if she remembers a guy with that gamer tag, and the girl instantly says yes. The princess looks back fondly on the times they walked the tracks together, saying he was a super wholesome guy. Staring at the clear sky, the big guy mentions the chat was saying the vet got wiped out 2 years ago. He admits the massive beard and the hobo skin were the main reasons he didn't recognize his old squadmate. With the daily quest complete, the MC casually walks off into the sunset, thinking about how draining this session was. The official Kingdom patch notes confirm the operation was a flawless victory, securing the first freshman. The massive university campus is just waiting for the Op Princess to drop in and start the season. Checking his new quest logs, Ivan finds out the next targets are spawning right at the start of next month. Looking closely at the lore, the vet figures he doesn't need to stress much since he's got max rep with those kids' home region. Skimming the reports, the vet notices that Enrique's protege and the mage's kid are taking a blimp in soon. Staring at his desk, he sighs with relief that he won't have to deal with that woman anytime soon, asking himself if clearing 2 more raids will finally end the tutorial phase. Biting his pen, the MC shifts focus to his real priority right now. He starts typing up a tier list of Earth foods he wants to binge, deleting one option to lock in something top tier. He decides his ultimate craving right now is to absolutely demolish a fat bowl of tteokbokki. He imagines the steaming dish, making sure it's not some modern fast food variant, but that classic old-school cafeteria vibe. Throwing his head back, the guy lets out a massive sigh, cursing his RNG and just wanting to fast travel home. Right after, he gets jump-scared by a random noise. A young girl named Priscilla is literally wall-hanging outside his third-story window, asking how long he's been AFK complaining about food. Totally mind-blown, the orphanage director asks how on earth the kid managed to parkour up there. The student happily brags about her grinding, while he tries to figure out if wall climbing is part of the school meta now. At that, the girl jumps into the office hyping her W, but the vet shuts it down, telling her to use the hallway next time. Back at the orphanage, there's a legendary minigame the kids are absolutely obsessed with. The ultimate challenge is to try and sneak up on the director without triggering his radar. Since it's a fan-favorite mode, the kids are always cooking up crazy new strats to try and catch the big boss Ivan off guard. But the veteran's game sense is completely maxed out from years of sweating in the war zones. He literally catches projectiles thrown at his back without even needing to turn his camera. He's also a god at finding any camper instantly, no matter how hard they try to blend into the map. His sheer presence usually drops a massive intimidation debuff and ruins any sneak attack before it even starts. But despite having a scary skin, his real personality has always been incredibly wholesome. The big guy loves carrying the kids on his shoulders, basically being the ultimate co-op partner they could ever ask for. Looking down the road, the director figures that if these kids can actually outplay his combat radar one day, they will 100% be ready to solo the real world and survive without needing a carry. With 2 weeks left on the timer until the next VIP's travel, he watches the yard thinking he'll get a little downtime. Sadly, that chill vibe gets cancelled super fast. In the dead of night, Priscilla gets taken hostage by a squad of toxic mercs who are terrified of the director's aggro. One of the thugs asks where the girl learned to use the stealth mechanic so well. Keeping a completely unbothered posture, the student drops the lore that her coach is the one and only Ivan Petrovich. The goons instantly panic as soon as they hear that legendary gamer tag. Trying to fake it, the squad leader laughs nervously, lying through his teeth that he's never even heard of the vet. Desperately coping, the dude claims that's just a super generic NPC name in the Krasilov region. At that, a tear drops down the hostage's face when a mystery voice commands everyone to freeze. A sketchy woman walks out of the shadows demanding to know who just dropped that guy's name. Shaking a bit, the girl stutters, calling out for her beloved director. Radiating an insane red aura, the unknown woman repeats the veteran's name like she's super interested. Far away, the MC equips his gear, ready to spin the block after getting the awful notification. Hearing the staff frantically report the student's kidnapping, he locks in on finding the girl. Scanning the items left at the scene, the guy spots the signature calling card of an old mutual. Throwing on his jacket, the director heavily regrets having to deal with the exact player he was trying to dodge. That mark on the map was a loud and clear duel request from a former master. He recalls that the notoriously sweaty extermination unit was literally built by that dangerous one. That same fearless player had officially announced she was logging off from PvP for good. But in reality, Enrique spent all this time secretly managing a hit squad in the underground servers. Following the sparse breadcrumbs, the vet enters the city's massive underground sewer maze to find the base. Walking through the dark tunnels, he realizes it took him less than 3 hours to pinpoint the danger zone. After the server-wide war ended, a bunch of statues popped up in the main hub to flex the winners. However, the monument for the nameless hero randomly despawned overnight. The only person with enough admin privileges to jack a massive prop from the capital without a ban had to be super influential. As an OG member of the hero's party, Enrique left a note declaring that the morning rights belonged exclusively to her. Finding the stolen prop in the sewer, the vet thinks that edgy weapons are totally out of the meta in times of peace. Staring at the stone base, the guy wonders if that text was always hard-coded there. The message immortalized the hype of the fallen players and was signed by the master thief herself. Looking super depressed, the MC walks slowly, feeling the heavy emotional damage of the war flashbacks. He remembers the old pact they made to never shed a tear for the players who logged out early. Accepting his own lore, he reaffirms he also belongs to that forgotten squad of gamers. His heavy boots echo through the freezing tunnel as he gets closer to the end of the. The massive statue just stands there alone in the dark, archiving the logs of a super sweaty era. Stepping through the door, the director leaves the shadows and locks his crosshairs on his current object. The guy walks into a crazy VIP lounge that completely clashes with the trashy sewer aesthetics. Staring down his former duo partner, he bluntly points out that she still holds onto the old look. Chilling comfortably, the woman says welcome back, noting it's been 7 whole years since their last lobby. Known as the master thief of the heroes squad, Enrique keeps a super toxic and provocative vibe. Back in the day, she soloed a massive elder vampire boss, securing the title of national heroine. That exact living legend holding the teacup was the coach who completely power-leveled the MC back then. Calling out her students' passive behavior, the master notes he didn't even take a sip of the coffee she dropped him. The vet chill replies that he likes his drinks iced, proving he literally doesn't care about poison debuffs. Laughing out loud, the vampire hypes his confidence, but the guy cuts the banter and demands to know where Priscilla is. Dropping the cup on the table, he warns the woman to stop acting so edgy around him. A creepy fanged grin pops up on the villain's face after getting called a casual by her own trainee. Leaning on the chair, the MC starts flooding the whole room with an insanely heavy boss level. Shook by the massive flex, Enrique mentions that pulling aggro is supposed to be the predator's job. Trying to defuse the lobby, she swears the girl is totally safe with max HP, visibly stunned by the guy's energy. But the director's rage keeps stacking, literally taking the shape of a massive spirit snake ready to strike. Keeping his death glare locked in, the vet announces it's the thief's turn to drop some lore. Without a single frame of hesitation, the spirit beast lunges, wrecking the environment to crush the enemy. Keeping his death glare locked in, the vet announces it's the thief's turn to drop some lore and demands to know what her endgame is. The vampire just sits there chilling, glowing with a red aura, while he grills her on why she's hoarding those orphans. Ivan brings up that when he heard his old duo adopted a kid after retiring, he actually thought it was super wholesome. Then he realizes it was a massive warning sign when he saw she trained a stealth prodigy in just 2 years, and sent her to his base like she was opening up a rival hit squad franchise in his yard. Watching the woman dramatically sip her tea, the director figures this whole stunt is a straight-up declaration of war. Enrique sighs and acts super extra, saying she's deeply offended by his toxic allegations. Slamming the cup down with fake rage, she doubles down on how much his harsh callout hurt her feelings. Looking at the whole circus with a deadpan face, Ivan wonders why on earth the vampire is wearing a cringe, outdated fake mustache, finding the whole aesthetic maddening. The master explains she invited him to a private lobby precisely because she didn't want a PvP, while the student remains totally confused by the goofy disguise. Dropping the formalities, the MC asks how much data he needs to leak to expose her actual master plan. He recaps that 4 years after the Demon King's server wipe, Krasilov looks chill, but secretly it's a massive battle royale for the throne. Crown Prince Alexander is totally down to trigger a global server war, while Princess Elizaveta is trying to maintain server stability at any cost. To dodge a massive ban wave, the royal literally summoned a MIA veteran back from retirement just to play bodyguard for the VIP Academy students. Ivan makes it clear he's that secret carry and asks again what his old mentor is cooking, since she's acting like she's going to initiate a fight any second. The vet clocks that Enrique already data-mined his official quest, but finds her nosiness super sus, suspecting the thief might have switched factions. The MC internally wonders if his old raid partner decided to team up with the greedy crown prince. Facing the woman's intimidating stance, he tries to read the mind of that absolute psycho. Dropping the riddles, Enrique mentions she heard rumors that the vet is coaching a protege who's enrolling in the university this year. The thief flashes a dark smile, making Ivan let out an exhausted sigh, predicting a massive headache incoming. She explains her sponsor showed massive interest in the topic, because it would be a huge L for the nation if the young student took any damage. The director figures out the contract is literally to protect his student, recognizing Princess Elizaveta's classic shadow broker strats. Flashing her sharp fangs, the vampire repeats the objective and aggressively confirms that his student is now her main VIP escort mission. Relieved by the spoiler, Ivan deduces her toxic behavior is just her way of making the royal understand the reality of the game. Completely switching gears, Enrique turns to the door and screams for a girl named Lucia. Instantly, the heavy wooden door swings open, showing the super hyped arrival of the sidekick. The girl runs in beaming, while the vampire introduces her as the veteran's proud senior disciple. Absolutely lost in the sauce, Ivan asks if the kid is even human and wonders if she knows what species her coach belongs to. Still riding the hype train, Lucia proudly thumps her chest and innocently guarantees her mentor is 100% human. The rookie justifies that despite a slightly weird diet, the vampire is a legit hero who protects the server and is humanity's biggest MVP. Faced with such a flawless absolute brainwashing, the guy is just paralyzed in silence, totally lacking a comeback. The vet remembers that since the Demon Wars, the kingdom has kept a super toxic stance against other races, making the kid's open-minded vibe incredibly rare. Enrique hugs the student super tight, declaring the girl is her biggest flex and way better than both of them, treating her like a god-tier drop. But the thief quickly snaps back to a terrifying boss stance, glowing with magic, and coldly warns she doesn't want to end her old duo partner. Reading the aggro, Ivan pulls his axe, accepting that this stressful chat is going to end in a PvP duel. The guy asks what faction his old mentor is really repping, and if they're going to gamble all their classic memories right here, right now. Rushing in for a heavy strike, he demands to know how much gold the prince paid to buy her out. The vampire sidesteps the attack with insane frame data, letting the massive smash wreck part of the map. Landing perfectly but looking super confused, she asks what on earth he's talking about and totally denies teaming with the prince. Staring down the woman who just lost her goofy fake mustache during the dodge roll, Ivan admits he never vibed with that noble anyway. The lethal tension despawns instantly, leaving the two old veterans in an incredibly awkward silence in the middle of the busted room. Shortly after, they all sit back around the table totally chilled out, trying to ignore the massive miscommunication that almost caused a team wipe. Sighing with zero stamina left, the MC complains that chatting with the thief is a nightmare and tells her to just drop the patch notes clearly next time. Completely clueless about the near-death experience, Lucia claps her hands excitedly and hypes up what an epic duo they make. Leaning on the desk after so much brain rot, the director thinks this unnecessary stress is more than enough reason to invoice the princess for hazard pay. Taking a massive gulp from his teacup, he relaxes and internally celebrates resolving his biggest daily quest without taking damage. The vet realizes the first stage of the academy tutorial is going to be a breeze, since the vampire student has zero chance of getting griefed. It's super obvious the helicopter parent thief will be camping in the shadows, guaranteeing the weird girl's safety during classes. Watching the wholesome dynamic between the two, Ivan thinks it looks way more like a parent-teacher conference than a hardcore boot camp. Curious, Enrique asks why he taught stealth mechanics to the orphans, but he deflects, claiming the kids just learned it themselves while grinding for part-time jobs. After rescuing his student, the director strolls through the city streets, noticing they are way out of the orphanage's safe zone. Checking out the epic sunset skybox, he asks why Priscilla decided to roam all the way to the capital hub and ended up pulling aggro from those thugs. The kid walks with her head down, looking super stressed, and calls out to the director very shyly. Gathering a little courage, she asks if the big guy is secretly packing his inventory to abandon the guild. The MC completely gets why she's panicking, remembering that a government mod showed up recently and he's been AFK from the base a lot lately. Thinking about his own wishlist of Earth foods, he realizes the kid must have noticed his constant urge to fast travel back to his home server. The guy admits in the dark that it's literally impossible to hide his true stats from those big-brain kids who co-op with him every day. Looking at the sweet student under the golden hour lighting, he cracks a tiny smile, showing he really cares about her. Not wanting to cap to someone who simps for him so hard, the veteran honestly confirms that he'll have to log off soon. The student's eyes go wide in absolute shock, hearing her worst nightmare officially confirmed. Priscilla instantly breaks down crying, begging the director not to quit, because the guild will be totally dead without him. Feeling terrible, the guy realizes the war orphan got terrified at the brutal thought of losing her spawn point again. He realizes it was exactly this irrational panic that made her speedrun to the city hub to farm gold, ending up getting mistaken for an elite operator. Clinging onto the director's dark coat, the kid keeps sobbing loudly, demanding to know what server he's migrating to. Standing in the middle of the empty street, Ivan thinks about his ultimate endgame goal of logging out of this toxic world and returning to his home server. However, he drops his tired expression and decides to lock in on what actually needs to be done for these kids right now. Giving the girl a wholesome head pat, the big guy drops the spoiler that he's just taking a job at the university and promises to visit the base all the time. Wiping away the sad tears, Priscilla slowly chills out, while the vet realizes he doesn't need to speedrun his exit and literally couldn't even if he tried. Looking at the peaceful front of the orphanage, he admits he grinded super hard for that base and calculates it'll take about 3 years to finally log out. Later in his isolated office, the director checks the university admissions flyer, remembering the next exam drops in November. He recalls the kid's massive smile when she realized she just had to pass the skill check to co-op with him again in a year. Hyped by the big brain strat, the orphanage kids start grinding the books like crazy, making it a rule to pass the dreaded exam in total stealth mode. Young Priscilla sneaks through the halls looking totally locked in, ready to clutch the massive challenge without getting caught. The whole base turns into a sweaty academic battle royale, where the grand prize is securing a slot at the director's elite school. Totally oblivious to his loyal students' unhinged meta, Ivan reviews his paperwork in the office, feeling good that the run is going smoothly. His final log shows Princess Isidis's profile stamped with a massive W, proving the first stage of the VIP escort mission is cleared. His final report also shows Lucia's profile officially stamped, confirming another phase successfully checked off. Ivan reads the room calmly, knowing there's still a ton of grinding left to do. Miles away, a massive train speeds across the plains at full throttle. Inside the transport, a sword rests safely under the watch of its owner. Next up on the roster is Isabel, a young warrior carrying a totally overpowered legacy. She is literally the direct heir to the legendary hero who saved the server back in the day. The vet remembers the hero's squad basically ran as a tactical Black Ops team focused on stealth raids. Because they had to infiltrate enemy lines, the squad always operated in the dark with max stealth. But his flashbacks show the leader spamming giant light beams in the dead of night, pulling aggro from the entire map. Maximilian thought it was an absolute flex to dox his own location during a raid. He'd immediately get bonked on the head for being an absolute troll and causing so much drama. The thief would flame him super hard for screaming that the server's hope had arrived. Right then, the squad's mage would ping something sneaking up on their flank. The team's warrior would refuse to get out-fragged and start wrecking the environment just to secure his MVP spot. The chaos would trigger massive AoE magic explosions, making the thief scream in pure rage at those two griefers. The party's knight thought it was just a light warm-up, while the thief called out that his wrist HP was low. Ignoring the warning, he'd spam for heals from the Saintess and complain that his partner's vibe was kind of toxic. Watching the whole circus, the giant barbarian would start laughing like an absolute menace. Glowing with pure rage, the warrior claimed guys from his server leave a mark on the map, while everyone begged him to chill out. The skybox showed a massive, quiet mountain on the horizon. Out of nowhere, a broken attack would slice the mountain peak clean in half, sending dust everywhere. Because of these incredibly toxic plays, the squad always ended up pulling entire hordes of mobs. Flying nightmare creatures would chase the team like an angry swarm of bees. Sprinting for his life, Ivan vividly remembers that sweaty escape sequence from the Dark Generals that day. After all the lag and chaos, the night sky would finally go back to being peaceful and starry. Pointing up, the hero would hype up his own ridiculous ultimate move. Fully flexing, Maximilian would brag about literally splitting the skybox with his sword. The knight would join the circle jerk, claiming he cut way more, while the barbarian doubled down on slicing the mountain. The two would start a totally useless debate over which prop was harder to slice in half. It always ended with the warrior screaming like a lunatic at the stars, while the thief almost rage quit from dealing with those trolls. Even though he caused the most grief, the leader was the one with the brightest aura of them all. He didn't think twice before risking a game over just to split the sky for zero logical reason. The guy justified it later, saying he only did it because he wanted to look at the stars, which made Ivan totally reject that logic. 4 years after dropping the final boss, that dude literally ghosted the server, cutting contact with everyone. Now the vet reflects that people simp for the hero icon, but completely forgot who the real Maximilian was. Snapping back to reality at the station, one of the suits asks if the MC is lagging or uncomfortable. The underlings try to farm approval points by handing out drinks while they wait to board at the terminal. Taking a deep breath, the director admits he got himself stuck in a super annoying side quest. He remembers the day he fast-traveled back to the hub after blocking the ambush on Princess Isidis. At the military base, the officer was mind-blown, asking how he downloaded the terrorists' exact strat with such insane accuracy. The guy instantly promised the devs would send at least 5 elite mods to support him on future raids. Super nosy, the officer wanted to know how the vet built such a broken intel network solo. Ivan knows he literally just abused his knowledge of cliché story tropes, but gets that the faction sees it totally differently. Keeping the edgy aesthetic, he chose not to drop any lore, knowing the mystery would just buff his local street cred. Back in the present, the map flies by the moving train window. The downside of his random clout spike was getting stuck with a squad of 5 clumsy mods tailing him 24/7. Totally losing his patience, the director internally roasts them for wearing matching default skins and being way too obvious. He flames the noobs for camping in the same corner when there are plenty of empty slots, finding their stealth strats completely garbage. Unable to stand the noob behavior, the vet starts charging up a heavy aura, ready to drop a massive reality check on them. During the long train ride, the vibes stay super tense under the clear morning sky. The steel wheels grind furiously against the tracks, marking their steady progress to the next zone. Reaching a checkpoint, the agents salute and announce they're backing off per the veterans' orders. Standing firm, Ivan demands they stop talking like a hive mind and actually start hiding their aggro. The officers back away sweating cold, complaining that the veterans spent 18 straight hours lecturing them. Solo on the platform, the MC watches the squad walk away completely demoralized. He knows the lieutenant dropped this escort quest on him, but he finally shook the aggro after giving them a masterclass in stealth. The new patch notes told the agents to dump all their security points into guarding Oscar, the legendary knight's heir. Fixing his coat, the vet figures that dumping his stalkers and protecting the VIPs at the same time was an absolute 200 IQ play. Meanwhile, in another part of the server, Isabelle walks solo down the dead silent corridor of a train car. The young heir keeps a super edgy posture, proving she is definitely not vibing with her current lobby. The girl keeps walking while getting hard focused by a guy in a suit trying to get her attention. The dude tells her not to stress, trying to keep a super chill and friendly tone. He reaches out trying to diffuse the tension and close the distance with the student. Instantly, the freshman turns her head, dropping an absolute death glare and tells the idiot to shut his mouth. The guy tries to hide his panic while she demands he uninstalls himself from her sight, because she literally can't stand looking at his face anymore. Resuming her boss walk, Isabelle flames the guy, making her absolute disgust crystal clear. Stuck in the hallway, the dude drops his head, staying dead silent after that brutal rejection. Soon his simp energy flips, revealing some heavily suppressed toxic rage. Miles away, another packed passenger car rolls on its express route straight out of Santa Mathlin. Being a fast travel route straight to the capital, the map covers zones that used to be the front line against monster spawns. Resting his face on his hand, Ivan chills, knowing most of the route is locked down by heavy military mods. Thanks to the server's anti-cheat, the vet calculates there are only 3 dead zones on the map where an ambush is actually viable. The first choke point got cleared during sunset without a single random encounter. During the dead of night, the transport rushed through the second danger zone and dodged any aggro yet again. With only the final window left, a mystery hand grips a strapped piece in the dark, waiting for the perfect frame to strike. Camping in the dark car, Ivan grips his weapon hard, realizing they finally hit the final stage of the passenger car rolls on peacefully, with the NPCs AFK in their seats having zero clue about the incoming raid. Meanwhile, the suit guy who got totally curved by Isabelle is camping silently in an isolated corner. Suddenly, the veteran feels the vibes are way too chill and wonders if his meta read on the classic train ambush was totally off. He throws out the idea that Princess Isidis's attack was just random RNG, since the script for this type of academy lore never changes. Sweating over the chance of a misplay, the guy starts stressing that he might not even be stuck in an academy plot. A terrifying thought drops in his head: what if this cursed fantasy server doesn't even have a true endgame? The director remembers how NPCs usually lose their minds during raids, wondering what the actual final cutscene of this whole grind is. Thinking about his old leader Maximilian, the MC theorizes that maybe the happy ending was exclusive to the hero, who might have just fast-traveled back to his original server instead of going AFK. With a sharp look, he questions what happens to the map and the players left behind when the campaign actually ends. Totally consumed by the doom-scrolling in his head, the veteran starts panicking, asking what's going to happen to his account if the story never officially ends. Watching the train speed through the lonely night, the man decides he absolutely despises this RNG uncertainty. Unable to tank the emotional weight anymore, he admits to himself he doesn't want to spend another frame in this toxic server. The absolute urge to rage quit everything and just delete his account from this world takes over his brain completely. The emotional damage hits the limit, making the hero despise this outdated zero-comfort map he was forced to grind in. Breathing super heavy, the director tugs his collar trying to tank the panic attack, reminding himself he desperately needs to log out. A split second later, the veteran's combat radar goes crazy as he detects a sudden glitch in the environment. A massive random flash of light bounces off his glasses, completely shattering the darkness of the car. Instantly, an overpowered explosion shreds the train's metal frame, launching props into the sky. The heavy impact flips the chill map into an absolute disaster zone of fire and flying debris. Flames eat up the train instantly, confirming the highly anticipated raid event has officially started. With the tracks totally gone, the heavy cars start free-falling violently straight into the dark void. Young Isabelle screams while falling through the chaos, which instantly cures the veteran's panic debuff, switching him back to the sweaty operator who needs to clutch. Snapping back to his boss stance, the guy feels his brain and body go ice cold, locking in purely on survival mechanics. The vibe at the crash site matches the server's brutal, silent winter, as enemy flashlights start sweeping the zone. Parkouring through the wreckage with insane movement tech, he realizes the tutorial phase for the noobs is far from over. Highlighted by the moonlight, the MC leaps across the busted train cars, maintaining absolute control of his character. Flashing a cocky smile midair, he realizes his meta read was right all along, and his chill endgame is still waiting for him. The massive train smashes brutally into the snowy floor at the bottom of the canyon. A thick cloud of freezing fog floods the map, muting the insane audio of the crash. Pinned under the debris, Isabelle lets out a low groan, trying to reboot her system. Booting up with major lag, the girl tries to process how the chill ride turned into a nightmare lobby so fast. Right then, the suit guy pops up looking heavily damaged, hovering over her and asking breathlessly if the freshman managed to wake up. The student's eyes go wide in total shock, seeing that exact dude tanking the falling rubble for her. Spitting blood from the insane HP drain, the man tries to talk while the heavy props threaten to crush them both. A quick flashback of her brutally roasting him in the hallway hits her, making his carry attempt feel even more surreal. Even on low HP, the man flexes a heavy protector aura, while she asks why he'd risk a game over like that. Coughing non-stop, the guard leaks that this raid was completely target-locked on her and begs the girl to dash out immediately. With tears welling up, the princess calls him an idiot for saving such a toxic person, claiming she knows he secretly hates her. She tries to justify his play thinking he's just terrified of her dad, but screams that the legendary hero literally doesn't care about anyone. The guy agrees with her take in a shockingly chill tone that leaves her completely mind-blown. He drops the lore that he never simped for Maximilian's attention, and his loyalty is purely because she's the hero's actual drop. The heavy silence from the girl shows she's taking massive emotional damage, hearing such raw, unexpected dialogue. The old leader's massive presence hovers over the guard's reasoning, showing how heavy it is to carry that royal tag. Tanking the weight of the train, the guy finishes by saying she is the true ultimate hope left behind by the OG warrior. Crashing the dramatic cutscene, a massive shadow drops in asking bluntly what the heck they are chatting about. The veteran scans the lobby instantly and practically praises the injured guy's sacrifice. Using just one hand, the director lifts the heavy twisted metal beams without showing a single pixel of effort. The MC asks for the downed guy's gamertag, and he breathlessly introduces himself as Diane August. Catching his breath, the young guy asks who his carry is and gets hit with the legendary name Ivan Petrovich. The vet cuts to the chase, asking if the guard actually wants to avoid the game over screen, and he confirms with heavy lag that he'd love that option. Not wasting a single frame, the big guy pops the cap off a sketchy flask using just his thumb. Dumping the bubbling green juice without an ounce of pity, the man dryly warns that the healing process is going to deal massive pain damage. The girl tried to clip that moment in her brain, imagining the brave knight tank the weird meds with flawless mental fortitude. But the reality is the dude screaming in pure agony, begging to be deleted from the server while leaking classified military intel just to stop the absurd torture. Freaked out by the toxic healing strat, the freshman helps the guy up before the weirdo can dump more juice on him. Instantly, the princess slaps the absolute soul out of the knight, flaming him for his idiot play of almost getting wiped out. The young guard gets a massive red mark on his face, totally stunned by the student's sudden aggro. Seeing the guy babble for his mom after the hit, Ivan pins the blame on the girl, saying her strike totally factory reset his brain. Getting back on mission, the vet calls out that the mobs are pushing down the mountain and tells the student to carry the guard while he takes the front line. Rejecting the shot call, Isabelle pulls her own sword with a feral glare, swearing she's got enough stats to fight too. The girl's determination is off the charts as she grips her weapon's hilt with insane resolve. The director reads her stance coldly and rejects the party invite, which makes the freshman super salty about being treated like a casual by a random. The MC comments that her toxic attitude definitely came from her mom, leaving the girl shook to realize he actually ran with the legendary hero. Rounding up the uninjured NPCs in the snow, Ivan orders them to drop campfires and craft blankets, while someone asks if the light won't just pull more aggro. He shoots the question down instantly, saying nobody there needs to stress over that, making the girl wonder if he's totally unhinged for planning to solo the dark zone. Marching straight toward the red zone, the veteran drops a cold line saying the situation isn't their problem either. The director's heavy glare makes it crystal clear he's ready to wipe the server of any threat rushing down the mountain. Staring at the moon, the vet recalls a classic tactical meta about always prepping for the second worst possible RNG. He admits the line sounds like a cheap anime quote, but the brutal reality of ranked matches proves the strat is actually god tier. The MC knows mercs always look for the most toxic and sweaty path to secure an easy wipe against unarmed noobs. Checking out the exhausted lobby around the fires, he calculates that the default play is to run from the crash, which triggers a relentless forest manhunt. To dodge getting griefed while running for their lives, the 200 IQ strat is to literally use the victims as glowing bait. This crazy flex forces the enemy to completely switch up their game plan, dropping the speedrun chase to try and encircle the lit-up base. With the mercs finally grouped up and rushing in for the gank, Ivan gets ready to abuse the massive advantage of having all the targets neatly stacked. The veteran thinks about what it means to plan for the worst RNG and still clutch the best outcome in a real PvP fight. He decides that if the enemies think they are the final boss, he needs to become the absolute sleep paralysis demon of their lobby. Not dropping a frame, he takes his piece off safety in the pitch black, ready to trigger the counter rush. He busts out an exclusive tech from his old Black Ops squad, made specifically for hitting cross-map snipes with just a handgun. The first shot rings out, landing a clean headshot on one of the mercs. Abusing the campfire lighting, the MC keeps spamming shots, dropping the enemies trying to push the base. Mouthing over his squad getting wiped, one of the goons curses the camping sniper and demands he stops hiding. Gliding through the shadows, Ivan predicts the squad will now try to reset and flank his position. But he knows perfectly well that holding torches in a dark forest literally turns you into a walking bulls. Swapping to his melee build, the vet spawns out of thin air and drops a massive axe crit on one of the guards. The brutal combo continues, folding another criminal who screams before kissing the snow. With pixel-perfect frames, the heavy blade cuts the air, deleting another mob before they can even pop a shield. Absolute chaos takes over the forest while the MC pushes forward, slicing the enemies one by one. After finishing the combo string, he just flicks the axe to reset his weapon animation. Dropping a tired sigh, the guy checks the massive pile of looted mercs at his feet, calculating his total DPS. Speed reloading his piece, the director proves why his old squad's ambush meta was totally broken. This terrifying tech allows a single solo player to create the illusion of an entire squad, locking down the enemy team. Miles away, a goon reports to the captain that 3 more guys got meleeed, even though they rushed the gunfire. The leader, Yahello, reads the feed, suspecting he's matching up against a super sweaty Pro League team. Checking the audio cues closely, the demon realizes the shots are popping off simultaneously from the north and west. He clocks that the sound effects are slowly closing in, forming a perfect shrinking zone right around them. Keeping his cool, the captain holds his hand out and chill asks for his underling's weapon. With zero warning, the boss blasts his own teammate, totally shocking the rest of the lobby. After that toxic team kill, the demon confirms with 100% certainty that they are getting styled on by a solo player. One of the mercs is shook by the read and tries to argue the spamming audio proves otherwise. Invisible tripwires tied between the trees get triggered in the dead of the forest. The trap setup pulls the triggers on the dropped loot, faking a massive crossfire event. Gliding in the shadows, Ivan keeps mind-gaming the entire squad using the pre-programmed soundboard. The enemy captain rages, exposing that those sounds are coming from their own wiped-out squad's gear. Hearing the breakdown, the goon finally grasps the sweaty strat and enters full panic mode. While the vet keeps farming the isolated mobs, the enemy boss figures the first shot was just a ping to check their render distance. The demon admits they misplayed hard by sending the search party exactly where the camper wanted them. Terrified, one of the minions asks if this masterclass in griefing is the work of the great hero's daughter. Recalling the legendary warrior's broken stats, the captain figures the kid would be a raid boss even if she inherited half that build. Ready to run it back, he orders the whole clan to group up and hunt down the troll hiding in the woods. Then he drops the bomb that he's splitting from the main squad to solo queue. The freezing night keeps lagging the mountain, while the survivor's endgame remains a coin toss. Back at the campfire, the NPCs are shivering and crying, totally convinced they're about to catch a game over. Tripping hard on the potion debuff, Diane laughs at the wall while the princess begs him not to log out. Suddenly, the freshman's eyes go wide as she detects a massively overpowered boss aura entering her zone. Captain Yahello strolls up to the survivors looking totally unbothered, with his sword already drawn. With a super cocky vibe, the demon drops his official gamer tag as a centurion of the infantry division. Staring the girl down with glowing red eyes, he asks if she's the hero's spawn and promises to personally send her to the lobby. The full moon lights up the skybox, setting the stage for the epic boss fight. Far away, Ivan takes a chill walk through the snow after literally 1v50ing the entire squad they sent at him. The MC flicks his axe again to wipe off the low-res textures left on the blade. Leaving a massive trail of despawning enemies behind him, he mutters that he finally downloaded the full patch notes. With the server completely wiped, the director holsters his weapon back on his belt. Parkouring over the dark cliffs, he admits all this grinding just made the Academy script feel way too confusing. The guy calculates that if the freshman spawn is just the tutorial phase, then the difficulty slider is completely broken. He remembers Izidas's ambush was so basic you could literally clear it one-handed against those absolute bots. On the flip side, Isabel's quest required tanking a brutal train crash and still carrying the stuck NPCs out of the rubble. Like that wasn't toxic enough, a high-tier military hit squad raids the map instantly, giving the noobs zero time to learn the controls. To top it all off, the first boss of this stage is an insanely overpowered captain who can perfectly read hitboxes. The vet knows some games have scripted losses, but he realizes these mercs were literally trying to permanently ban the girl. The only logical fix for this bugged scenario would be a random support character dropping in to save the run. A massive realization hits him, making him rage over the fact that his entire role in the lore is just being that generic sidekick. Sprinting through the trees at max speed, the MC starts sweating over the thought of just being a background NPC. If that theory holds up, he's terrified he'll never unlock the true ending and stay hard-stuck in this server forever. Sticking the landing while holding his head, he tries to zero in on two huge bugs, the insane difficulty spike and whether the girl would actually get wiped so. With a locked-in stare, the big guy decides there's only one way to data mine the truth about this world's code. Standing on a high cliff, he spectates the camp from afar, totally AFK, refusing to press a single button to help. Down below, the enemy boss brags that he min-maxed his gear specifically because he knew he was facing the hero's heir. Flashing a toxic smirk, the demon flames the freshman, calling her stats incredibly trash. Barely holding her sword, the girl is clearly out of stamina while the veteran makes a totally ice-cold call. Hiding in stealth mode, Ivan swears to himself he won't intervene, even if the girl hits 0 HP. Powered by pure salt, Isabelle screams and rushes in, spamming a fast combo against the boss. The captain parries every frame effortlessly, saying tryhards like her think memorizing move lists actually buffs their speed. Pushing the girl back during the clash, he calls out that her stance is a complete fail. The NPCs watch the duel in horror, realizing their VIP carry is getting totally styled on. Breaking her guard with a basic attack, Ephilos explains that tech means nothing if the hitbox never actually connects. The boss drops a major disrespect, totally disappointed that the heir reached this level without ever playing a ranked match. Feeling the massive L, the student tells the troll to shut up and tries to hold on with tears in her eyes. But the stat gap is way too huge, and the princess's weapon goes flying after a heavy guard break. The sword lands stuck in the snow while the demon complains he wasted good drops on such a useless mob. Totally floored and out of stamina in the snow, Isabelle listens to the demon flame her for being a fake carry and saying he could speedrun this. The captain walks up with massive boss energy and asks if the hero's spawn has any last words before getting sent to the lobby. Frozen by the intimidation debuff, the girl just pictures her dad's legendary skin while desperately trying to find an out. Right then, a low HP voice chimes in, telling her to stop trying to be the main character in this rigged lobby. The student is shocked to realize it's Diane August, recalling an old tutorial tip about how true guts outscale raw stats. The injured guy resumes the chivalry speech he dropped 10 years ago before joining the server war, reminding them never to steal the spotlight. Keeping the wholesome lore going, the young knight explains they need to fully admit their own skill issues in the field. Even after getting his brain fried by Ivan's cursed potion, those voice lines are still hard-coded into the soldier's heart. The flashback highlights the pledge to always play support for the low levels and view the map through their screen. With that, the freshman accepts her own debuffs and gets a massive buff and resolve to keep grinding. But the enemy captain loses his patience and heavy attacks, telling her to log off if she's out of dialogue. Abusing the distraction, August jumps in and perfect parries the hit, declaring they wield the sword exactly because they know they are flawed. The NPCs watch the cutscene terrified, while the guard claims playing Protector is the only valid meta. He pushes the demon back hard and uses his knight title to buff his courage from 0. Locking his weapon tightly against the enemy's blade, the kid proves he isn't going to Alt F4 that easily. The knight guarantees his playstyle comes from pure humility, not just toxic W-keying. Holding the line, August tells the girl to grab her loot because doing the right thing is everyone's daily quest. Isabelle's eyes glow like crazy as her teammate's shot call echoes in her head. Then, the duo rushes in for a perfectly synced co-op strike against the toxic captain. The knight opens the demon's hitbox, and the princess uses the frame advantage to land a critical hit. The merc leader is absolutely mind-blown, completely unable to process how he got outplayed by a duo like that. Glowing with insane aura, the girl dumps all her mana into the tip of her blade for her ultimate. The sword pierces the villain's defense with a lightning-fast, totally broken animation. Under the full moon, the crit hits the boss right in the chest, officially ending the match. Wiped out and bleeding HP, the demon drops to the ground laughing weakly, totally unable to cope with it. He accepts his game over, joking that first the hero farmed him, and now his kid finished the run. The captain collapses on his knees in the cold snow, accepting that his run is completely dead. Super chill, Isabelle claps back, guaranteeing she's way more than just her dad's reskin. She drops her own gamertag with massive pride, making sure to highlight her mom's carry in her backstory. The villain drops one last smile and closes his eyes, getting the girl's message right before his screen goes black. The young girl holsters her weapon and drops a massive sigh of relief for surviving that sweaty boss rush. She breathes heavy, trying to regen her stamina after dumping all her stats into that fight. In the background, the trained survivors hug it out, crying tears of joy that the nightmare lobby is finally closed. Checking on the safe NPCs, the princess drops a tiny smile, giving the camp a solid GG. Right then, Ivan casually walks out of the shadows, and the girl asks where the rest of the mob spawns went. Glaring at the downed demon, the vet dryly confirms that dude was the final wave. Completely out of mana, the freshman drops into the snow, mind blown by the mystery guy's stealthy sweep. Spectating it all, Ivan realizes that raid was literally just a scripted awakening event for the early game. He figures that in a vanilla school route, every NPC would have caught a game over right there, including the Night August. Fueled by the trauma debuff, the girl would have awakened her ultimate solo and wiped the entire forest lobby in a berserk rage. The director realizes the chill, pacifist ending to this disaster only dropped because he speedrun the mob clear beforehand. Turning his back to the victory screen, the big guy is super relieved to confirm he isn't just a background asset in this server. This sudden epiphany reminds the man of the legendary day the hero blew his ultimate just to split the night skybox. Back then, the squad thought it was a troll move, but now he realizes his bro wasn't just doing it for the aesthetics. Hiding behind the dark clouds of the enemy map, the legendary leader just wanted to check if the morning star was still rendering in its usual spot. Walking away from the drama, the vet admits to himself he never really vibed with that old partner's aesthetic. Despite the beef, he remembers the guy's cocky smile that always kept the squad's morale meter full. Looking up at the clear sky, the princess does the exact same thing, thinking that the morning star is still up there for everyone to spectate. Already back in stealth mode, the director resets his mental and locks in completely on his main quest. To guarantee the OG squad's kids secure their graduation achievement, Ivan figures he needs to data mine how the mob spawned so close to the hub. Gripping the sketchy flask, the man focuses on tracking the admin running the bad guys and finding out how many spies actually infiltrated the academy. Confused by the weird audio cues, Isabel looks over and asks what the random dude is cooking in the dark. Flashing a lethal glare, the big guy pops the cap off the healing potion and warns he's got his own sweaty strats to farm intel from the prisoner.